What an opportunity I have to sit with Jim Koch from
You know what?
Boston
Before
Brew
we start,
Company.
I can't do this.
Now,
with
I
empty
think a dream
glasses.
has finally come true for me. I can cross this off my bucket list. Jim Koch actually pouring me a beer, a glass of Sam Adams. And thank you so much for inviting us to come down to the brewery today. And what a
Now,
perfect
that's how
pour
you-
that is. Look at that.
I've had a little practice.
I would imagine you would.
It's not the first Sam Adams I've poured.
Really? Well, let's talk about this in the sense that, since the early '80s, when you started brewing, well, you've actually brewed beer for a lot longer than that, correct?
Well, yeah, my dad was a brewmaster, so
Okay.
I was actually brewing beer when I was a kid. He would bring home some yeast, and we just play around with beer. So yes, I've been brewing beer at home before it was legal.
And nobody did it back then, too, right? I mean, it was kind of a relatively
was
new concept.
illegal.
Yeah, illegal.
Among
okay.
other things, but my dad
Statute of
was a
limitations
brewer.
up. We can talk
Yeah,
about that
yeah,
now.
Yeah, I'm clean.
Okay, excellent. You launched on Patriots Day back in the early '80s. What was that like? How was the environment different then than it is now?
The environment for quality American craft beer like Sam Adams was totally different
Yeah.
when I started. There were no craft breweries to speak of in the U.S.
Yeah.
The whole concept of quality American beer was an oxymoron to people. Back then, you had the mass-produced American beers, which were, they're consistent, inexpensive, but nobody thought you were going to get great beer.
Yeah.
It was like the fast food of beer, and then people had this mentality, well, the only place to get good beer is from imports.
Yeah.
And Sam Adams came along, and it blew that world apart. And all of a sudden, the best beer you could get was from a small, tiny little brewery here in Boston. And we got picked at the Great American Beer Festival as the best beer in America when the company was 3 people.
We're also seeing, too, straight down the Beltway in Washington, D.C., President Obama is a home brewer himself. Is there any tips that you can give him and other home brewers that, maybe are starting either as a hobby or as an entrepreneur? What can you say to them?
Well, when you're starting as a brewer, to me, you want to make something that you want to drink. So that can be a porter, a stout, an IPA. Lagers are harder. A lager is the kind of epitome of brewing skills. So most home brewers really don't tackle brewing a lager until they've really built a repertoire of skills. So I would start with that for President Obama. Start with something easy. Don't try to make Sam Adams. It's probably too hard for your skills.
I want to talk about, the programs that you've developed here to help young entrepreneurs, young groups. I know that it's the
Brewing the American Dream
Brewing the
program?
American Dream program. And tell me a little bit about that and why that's so dear to your heart.
Well, it came out of my experience starting Sam Adams. It wasn't easy, and there were some things that I wished I could have had, which was access to capital and loans on one hand, and also access to just good advice from somebody who'd been there and done that. I just had to make stuff up, make my own mistakes, invent, innovate, make more mistakes. And it would have been nice if a lot of just the nuts and bolts of starting a business were available to me. I knew beer, I knew how to brew beer, I was very passionate about that. But the nuts and bolts of a business were things that I learned through trial and error.
And those are literally, whether you're running an auto mechanic shop, an insurance company, or a yarn store, I guess that's what you mean, right? The elements of running a business.
Our program is really focused on low and moderate income entrepreneurs and business owners in food, beverage, and hospitality. So that's what we know. We know about, how do you source the best ingredients. We know about, how do you talk to your consumers and to your retailers about a food or beverage product so that you can romance it a little, educate them a little, and get people engaged. So it's in our area of expertise. We're here in Boston. This is a great place to be in business. There's so much energy, innovation, creativity. For centuries, we've always invented and innovated our way to a better world. We're not going to stop doing that. Just
Yeah.
relax and have a beer.
Cheers, Jim Koch.
Cheers.